New Orleans is home to America's most ambitious project. And after 50 years, it's still costing payers a fortune.
You'll want to subscribe for this one because when you see the real numbers behind this marvel, you'll understand why New Orleans residents are furious.
The Louisiana Superdome was supposed to revolutionize sports venues forever. It became the world's largest fixed-dome stadium, hosted countless Super Bowls, and changed how we think about indoor arenas. But today, it's a billion-dollar burden that just won't stop bleeding money. And wait until you hear about how much Louisiana families are really paying for this thing. Today we're on the ground in New Orleans, where we'll take a look at how the Superdome was built, why it became so expensive, and whether this engineering marvel was actually worth the massive price tag that keeps growing every year. The never-ending renovation cycle. The Superdome has been renovated so many times, it's basically like that friend who keeps fixing their car instead of buying just a new one. The post-Hurricane Katrina repairs alone cost $185 million to repair and refurbish what is still the largest domed stadium in the world. Every few years, Louisiana taxpayers get hit with another massive renovation bill. New luxury suites, updated technology, modern concessions, better lighting. It never ends. These aren't just nice-to-have improvements either. Without them, the Superdome can't compete with newer stadiums for major events. The building is like a really expensive pet that needs constant vet visits. Except this pet costs hundreds of millions of dollars every time it gets sick. Spoiler alert, and it gets sick a lot. And if you really need to get into a really head-spinning part, then watch this video to the end to find out about the million-dollar math that changed everything. The original sales pitch gone wrong. The Superdome story begins with New Orleans businessman Dave Dixon, who had the kind of big dreams that make politicians reach for their checkbooks. Dixon was, of course, selling Louisiana a stadium, but also he was selling them the future of their state. The original budget was supposed to be $46 million, and they hoped it would be ready for the 1972 NFL season. Dixon promised this revolutionary dome stadium would bring Major League sports to New Orleans, attract Super Bowls, and transform Louisiana into a tourist powerhouse. The politicians ate it up like beignets at Café du Monde. Well, Dixon's budget was about as reliable as a 1970s prediction about the future. Construction began on April 11, 1971, when Louisiana sold bonds to finance the project. They even had celebrations to mark the beginning. Little did anyone know that they were marching towards a financial black hole. By the time the stadium finally opened on August 3, 1975, it had costed $165 million. Now that's almost 4 times the original estimate. And that's just the beginning of our $4 billion industry. Engineering marvel meets financial reality. When the Superdome opened in 1975, it truly was revolutionary. We're talking about a building that covered acres of space and became the world's largest fixed-dome structure. The engineering was genuinely impressive. Architect Nathaniel Curtis Jr. designed the stadium to be a modern counterpart to the great domes of the world. No interior columns blocked the view, massive air conditioning systems could cool the entire space, and the artificial turf playing surf could be reconfigured for different sports and concerts. But all this innovation came with hidden costs that nobody saw coming. The building's sheer size meant utility bills that could power small towns. Specialized repair required expert contractors who charged premium prices, and the maintenance schedule was ambitious. I think like it's trying to keep a disco ball spinning with iPhone chargers. The billion-dollar burden begins. From the moment the Superdome opened, Louisiana taxpayers discovered they'd bought themselves a very expensive problem. The $165 million construction cost in 1975 would equal about to $963.5 million in today's money. Wow. But that was just the down payment on decades of financial pain. The construction bonds carried high interest rates, and the building's operating expenses exceeded every revenue projection. The New Orleans Saints, who moved in as the primary tenant, paid rent that barely covered basic expenses. Concert promoters and event organizers could demand favorable deals because the state desperately needed events to justify their massive investment. This created what economists called a white elephant situation. You've got this huge expensive asset that costs more to maintain than it generates its revenue. But you can't just abandon it because you've invested so much to walk away. And the interest on those construction bonds keep piling up year after year. Some estimates suggest that the total cost, including financial push to the real price tag, much higher than the construction cost alone. But wait, there is more financial pain coming. Hurricane Katrina's expensive wake-up call. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina turned the Superdome into a symbol of both shelter and suffering. Over 30,000 people took refuge in the building during the storm, but conditions quickly became horrible. The roof was damaged, power failed, and the facility couldn't handle the massive crowd. The post-Katrina repairs costed exactly $185 million to repair and refurbish the largest domed stadium in the world. And your head may spin now. Original construction, $165 million. Post-Katrina repairs, $185 million. Well, we're already at $350 million in direct costs, and we haven't even got to the really expensive part yet. The hurricane also revealed a fundamental problem with the dome's design. That structure that looked so futuristic in 1975, well, it turns out it's not great for extreme weather. He could have predicted that in a hurricane-prone Louisiana. The modern money pit realty. Now, our billion-dollar story gets really interesting. And by interesting, I mean terrifying if you are a Louisiana taxpayer. The building requires constant repairs, technology upgrades, and system replacements that cost millions every year. The Superdome requires constant smaller renovations, technology upgrades, and major repairs. The air conditioning systems need a regular replacement. The roof requires ongoing maintenance. Technology infrastructure becomes obsolete faster than smartphones. Operating expenses eat up most of the facility's revenue. When you factor in debt service, major repairs, and capital improvements, Louisiana taxpayers are still subsidizing this thing 5 decades later. The billion-dollar math that changes everything. Now the moment you've been waiting for. Let's see what Louisiana taxpayers have really spent on this thing. Original construction cost in 1975, $165 million. Post-Katrina repairs, $185 million. Ongoing maintenance, debt service, and smaller renovations over 50 years, hundreds of millions more. That's just direct cost we can really track, not counting decades of operating subsidies, interest payments on bonds, or the opportunity cost that money. And this is before we factor in what economists call the total economic impact. When economists calculate the total investment included interest payments and ongoing subsidies over 5 decades, estimates suggest Louisiana taxpayers have put well over $1 billion into the Superdome since its construction began. That works out to be thousands of dollars for every household in Louisiana, spread across multiple generations. Think about that for a second. Every family in Louisiana has essentially bought a really expensive piece of a stadium they might never even visit. The economic impact mirage. Now, the Superdome supporters will tell you that this investment has paid through economic impact. They point to Super Bowls bringing millions of visitors, Saints games generating year-round activity, and major events creating jobs. Most independent economic studies of stadiums financing tell a different story. They constantly find that public investments in sports facilities rarely generates enough economic activity to justify their cost. Think about it logically. When people spend money at Saints games or Super Bowl events, that's most money that they would have ever spent somewhere else in the economy anyway. It's not like the Superdome created new money out of thin air. It just moved existing money around. The opportunity cost question is huge. What else could Louisiana have done with over $1 billion over 50 years? Schools, roads, healthcare, maybe tax cuts? Any of those might have generated better economic returns than a stadium. The harsh reality of America's first super stadium. The Louisiana Superdome pioneered the concept of the multi-purpose dome stadium and inspired similar projects across America. But it also came with a cautionary tale about the real cost of ambitious public construction projects. Now, when we look back at the Superdome, which represents both the best and worst of American civic ambition, it's an impressive engineering achievement that has hosted memorable events and provided a home for professional sports. The Saints won their only Super Bowl there, and it's created countless memories for fans. But it's also a perfect example of how cost overruns, unrealistic projections, and long-term financial commitments can turn a civic dream into a taxpayer nightmare. The people who approved the original bond in 1971 probably never imagined their grandchildren would still be paying for this building in 2025. The never-ending story. Today, as the Superdome prepares to host another Super Bowl and continue its role as home to the Saints, Louisiana taxpayers are still writing checks for this 50-year-old decision. The building will need more renovations and more upgrades and more repairs. Because that's the thing about billion-dollar burdens. They don't just go away. They keep growing year after year. The Superdome stands as America's first super stadium and a monument to both engineering ambition and financial reality. Whether it was worth the price is a question every Louisiana taxpayer gets to answer every time they pay their taxes.
If you really enjoyed watching this video, then like it and don't close without watching our next must-watch controversy video, the costly controversy of Oakland Athletic Stadium. Also consider subscribing to our channel as we will be bringing up more exciting as well as controversial topics which you probably shouldn't miss.